Well, welcome. Tonight, actually, we're missing the baby of the group.
Yeah, you're missing Lenny.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
Lenny, kind of hard to call somebody Lenny's age the baby, but
Yeah.
he has only been on the board, what, 30 years?
Maybe a little longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Milford has led the way many times in a lot of initiatives, from housing to protect our residents, to different programs to protect us. And the people we're going to talk to tonight have been instrumental for almost 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
44.
44 years. Let's start with introductions.
Okay. Ken Evans, member of the Milford Board of Health.
Paul Mazzucchelli, health officer.
Long-term Milford residents,
Mm-hmm.
families in Milford.
All our lives.
Born in Milford. My mother was born in Milford.
Yeah, my mom and dad too.
Well, it was funny. I told my ungrateful offspring number one that she's now finally a true Milfordian, because she's third generation Milford, and she lives within 2 miles of her mother.
Oh, there you go.
So I said, you got to have both
Yeah, you gotta
facets
have
to be
both facets,
considered
right.
Milford.
That's for
Right.
sure. Yeah.
So, in the papers, in the media, everybody's talking about the changes in recycle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, years ago, Kenny, I remember you were the most vocal when everybody was saying, okay, you're not following the trend. Single stream is the way to go.
Right.
We should invest a couple $100,000 to buy fancy buckets and go single stream.
Correct.
People are changing their tune now, aren't they?
Yep.
You want to talk a little bit about why you were so strongly against it and what's happening now?
It was a relatively new idea, and I looked at it and I just felt that it's not going to work. It's great that everyone's saying that's the way to go, but you have to look at where the market is for these things. And as we're seeing right now, China is rejecting a lot of the recyclables that they're trying to sell them because they're soiled. The single stream is a perfect example of, you put everything in the same bucket and it all gets contaminated, and China doesn't want it. And they're the main user of these products.
One of the main reasons for single stream, Albert, was the convenience and the ease. In the more convenient and the more ease it is for the public,
operator to just do
right,
the bucket?
not only, right, for the operator, but also for the resident. And they feel as though that the easier it is and the more convenient it is, the more response you're going to get, the higher recycling rate you're going to get.
When I think single stream, okay, I get a 60-gallon bucket for my trash.
You get a 64-gallon bucket for your trash.
And a 90-gallon for
Right,
my recycle.
For your recycling, right.
I mean, today, I have 2 recycle bins
Mm-hmm.
in the house. I have one for paper
Mm-hmm.
and one for stuff.
Right.
As do I.
Right. You commingled everything but paper. And what was happening is with the single stream, again, for the convenience and for the ease, you hopefully would increase the participation rate because of the ease of it. And in some towns and countries and states, it worked. But after a while, the recycling material was getting contaminated. And, the paper was a big commodity. China used to buy the bulk of our paper. Egypt and other countries in the Middle East, some countries in South America would all buy our recycled paper. And it comes to find out it was contaminated, not only through the liquids that would be in the various containers that you recycle, but more importantly, the shards of glass that you would also throw in there as
So
well.
I think of contamination, I think that somebody throws a pizza box.
Well, that's also too, right? That
I
would
mean,
be
to
soil.
me,
Right, that would be the soil contamination, but the solid contamination was really messing up their equipment to make this.
so I threw a broken bottle in there and all the pieces of glass get in the paper.
Right.
which was causing a lot of contamination, and also would cause the big countries like China and Egypt and whatnot to reject this, and it just becoming more and more. So what happening? Not only that, but it was very labor intense in the recycling plant. The separation, for the paper goes somewhere, the cans go somewhere, the plastics go somewhere, etc.
Now remember, you had somebody sitting there saying paper.
Right.
Yep.
That's what happens.
It wasn't
You know,
automated?
some parts are, but the 50-50, half of it is labor, half of it is equipment still today. And-
Holy
and-
moly,
yeah,
how
and-
many people would it take?
It would take, and it's very labor intense, which was causing the price to go up. So now most of these cities and towns who thought single stream was their saving grace ended up not being their saving grace. The surrounding towns who did
Well,
institute.
they're getting zorched now. They're having
They're
to,
getting killed.
Right.
They get-
We have neighboring towns
No,
that
it-
are definitely
but
getting.
this is like hundreds of thousands of dollars. hit.
Yeah, I would say I know a couple of towns around spent $1 million themselves just in the bins. And they felt as though they were gonna get it back with the money they saved for recycling, and it didn't work. You see, you gotta understand too, Milford is one of only the handful, and I say handful, I can say it with a high degree of confidence, 5 cities and towns, municipalities in the state that still go off the tax base to pay for their rubbish and recycling at curbside. We do that because, of course, we're very prudent and very conscientious of how we go out for bid and how we you run the program, and how people like yourself on the finance committee actually dictate to us what we can and cannot do to
Now,
help
let's
save.
No,
put it
I
in
was told by
perspective.
someone who lives in Millville that I guess that used to be off their tax base.
Mm-hmm.
And now the town has said, we can't afford it anymore, you're gonna have to pay
Well, I
for it.
want to go through it because when my daughter was in Worcester, they had the designer trash
They have
bags.
the bags,
Right.
they have the bags.
Little
with it.
tiny cute little
Right,
bags, $3
right.
a piece.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, oh my God, what would that, but when I think of waste disposal, okay, what is the overall expenditure by the town of Milford in our waste disposal budget? Do you have a rough idea?
Yeah, I do. Probably 1.8, 1.9 million.
So 2 million out of 102 million. So it's 2% of our entire budget goes to dealing with waste.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, out of the 2 million, again, rough numbers, recycle, what do we pay for disposing of recycle versus trash?
Probably $20 a ton.
Versus 70 or?
68.
Okay, so
68,
68.
right,
So if you put it in the recycle bin, it costs the town a third. You know, take my newspapers and my book. If I throw it in the recycle bin, it costs me a third as much as throwing it in the trash.
And I want to emphasize the way Milford's doing it. It's at their end. The way these other towns are doing it with single stream is probably
Pretty
equal.
close.
Probably
Yeah,
equal.
pretty close to
68
what.
to 65.
So now, if I'm paying, well, 68, 65, it's rounding.
Well,
But-
probably 68 for solid waste, 65 for recycling.
But now, that doesn't give me a huge incentive as
No.
a town.
Right.
No.
That's rounding, $3, 5% is rounding error.
Why bother?
Well, that's,
Right.
now, unless I'm environmentally conscious and I want to do the right thing.
Right.
But let's face it, most of the people do something because of the economics.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Now, I'm stuck because if I don't recycle, Milford, and again, I can't deal with outside of Milford because that doesn't affect our taxpayers.
Right.
Exactly.
But if I just decide, yeah, I don't care, and I throw everything in my trash, I'm causing my neighbors, I'm causing my tax rate to go up,
Right.
but I'm causing my neighbor's tax rate because somebody's got to pick up the $70 a ton versus the 20.
And those individuals are not only breaking a town law that we have under the Board of Health, where we have a $25 fine that we had going back when we first started recycling in the 90s. They're also interfering with the waste ban regulation that the state has, where there's recyclables cannot be put in with your regular rubbish. They got to be separated and recycled. Hence, if Wheelabrator, who is the company that we take our waste to for incineration, there's always inspectors there, and once our trucks dump out on the loading dock to be pushed out into the incinerator, and they find a certain percent by visual looking, a certain percent of our load is recyclables, they reject that. And once they reject it, it has to be moved off the premises and taken to a landfill at about $140 a ton.
So you're doubling.
Yeah. Right.
So I mean, this is pretty serious, because every year we talk about most of the Milfordians, or the people who live in Milford, are pretty good about recycling.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
But, pet peeve is we have certain landlords who just,
They don't care.
Milford-
sorry.
The Board of Health did pass a regulation a couple of years ago, how property owners are responsible for their occupants, for their tenants, that they have to follow various town rules, especially waste disposal and our recycling rules as well. As you can see, sometimes you would ride by your house on the way to work and see a
And there's
mountain
a
of
pile
rubbish.
of, yeah.
A tenant moved out like a thief in the night, put everything in front, that the town would pick it up. And sometimes we get this response when we call a landlord, or we call the tenant that we found out where he or she was. Isn't the town supposed to pick that up? Don't the town take that? I mean, how ridiculous is that? But that's the response that we get. Why should us taxpayers be responsible for your cleanup? It's not your regular household waste that you're putting out weekly.
And again, I just got a pamphlet, a brochure,
Yeah.
Yes.
a while back. And we actually, my darling bride read it and said, uh-oh. I said, what do you mean, uh-oh? She goes, you can't put the recycle in plastic bags anymore. You got to get those big blue bins.
Oh, no, you can, no, I know what she means, but,
But Paul, I
Yeah.
didn't mind. I ordered 4
yeah.
big bins. If those are the rules, then
Yeah.
okay. If I'm going to expect my neighbors to play by the rules, I've
Right.
got to too.
Right.
So, hats off to Wheelabrator or whatever, because they didn't leave my recycles behind when I used to leave them in plastic bags. But I never thought about it till I read that when I put my newspapers in plastic bags, I'm contaminating the newspaper.
Right, and not only that, but those plastic bags also interfere with the equipment in the recycling. They almost like bands that actually
Bands, they're
stop
like
the-
like
Yeah.
elastic bands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we read it and we said, oh, okay, I guess if I'm going to have a pet peeve for people not helping, I best not be one of those people. So I got my little blue bins, and starting Thursday from my house, they'll be out. All my recycles will be in little blue bins.
Yeah.
But when you look at $2 million investment a year, that's substantial.
It is.
And if anybody doesn't follow the rules, and our rules are pretty,
Pretty lenient.
yeah. I mean, if I think about it, they really do lean towards the resident
Yes, they do.
compared to other places.
Mhm.
Then, but what can the Board of Health do?
Well, we try the best we can because, like I says, we don't have a lot of help. I mean, we have, me and Steve as an inspector. That's about it. And one other inspector that we have under contract that does restaurants. But other than that, I mean, the responsibilities that are mandated by the state
Well, Lisa too.
is
Lisa's an
overwhelming. Yeah,
inspector.
I mean, you're talking, Lisa would do like the tattoo parlors, the tanning beds, and the pools. All these come into play. And again, in the pools in Milford aren't just in the summertime. Again, we have hotels.
All the
and
hotels
we have.
But now, when I think about other towns, who manages, I don't know what the official title of the trash taker
Yeah.
carers are, but don't they have part of their normal DPWs to
Right.
manage just trash?
Some of them have just the DPW part of it, like another offshoot from the DPW to do it. Some have their own individual departments called the Solid Waste Department, Solid Waste Recycling Department. And they would do the, not only to ensure that people are following the rules, but also have enforcement agents out there and actually give you a ticket if you're not following the rules. And after so many, like we were talking earlier, after so many times you're in violation, they would stop pickup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but if you're not going to at least play by the rules, dear Mr. Landlord, we're not picking up from you
Right.
anymore. I don't feel I owe you to pay more just because you won't enforce it.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, I believe if you put a fine on them, they'd find a way to either pass it on to their tenants.
Sure.
Or-
That has happened.
Or they
Oh.
start,
That has happened, yeah.
If they go out and, apartment number 1, man comes out and says, I don't understand. Really? Well, your rent just went up $50.
Right.
Because my bill just went up $50 a month. It's amazing how, my sainted mother, when she didn't want to do something, no understand English. Now,
Yeah.
you've been in Milford for 80 years. She understood every word.
Bless her. Yeah.
You know, but it was no understand. You
Yeah.
know, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, hit her with a fine.
Yeah.
Boy, she would understand real quick.
That's right.
So, you know, I guess I have a problem because it seems rude that some people are saying, I'm going to pass my responsibility over
Right.
and make you pay for it.
That's right.
And the majority are these multifamilies. 3 to 4,
Yeah.
4,
You-
4 and 5 family.
I would say you're
units.
right, Kenny. The majority of the violators are the multifams. You go to single family, 2-family neighborhoods, you see every blue bin out there, majority, you know, but major.
Well, your neighbors would say something.
Mhm. That's right.
I'm sorry,
And-
people
and-
in Milford would
and
look
they-
over and say,
Yeah.
hey, Ken,
Yeah.
you don't believe in recycle?
Yeah, we have a recycling program that's mandatory.
You know?
Exactly.
It's odd money out of my pocket
Mhm.
because you're not playing.
Right.
Yeah.
But now, these landlords, and I don't want to paint them all,
No, you know.
but
Right.
the small number, if you got 5 families, boy, that's a lot of trash that,
There's a lot of trash in it, and it's very generous that the town does pick up 5 families. You don't really see that anymore.
well, but I guess the problem I have is, wait a minute, if we're being generous and you're laughing at me,
Mhm.
I'm sorry. And then the argument I heard was, well, then they'll just throw it on the street. I
Mhm.
said, okay, and we'll have
And-
Wheelabrator or somebody go by
Right.
and say it costs $100 every
Exactly.
time we do.
Right, here's the bill.
Here's your bill.
Right.
Yeah.
It bothers me, mainly for the fact that so many people do so many good things in Milford
Mhm.
for the community. I don't like the few who pass their burden
Right.
on to us.
Right,
Yeah.
true.
Now, in the old days, you used to have seniors driving behind the trash trucks and noting who doesn't
It's been
recycle.
About 4 years ago, we started that program into the senior center, and we said we need volunteers to, use our truck and follow and see who's recycling and who isn't. That was about 4 years ago. We got one volunteer, and we haven't got any
But now,
volunteers
is the
since.
senior center the right place, Kenny, or is it
Well,
Delaney's office?
Well, we usually get a
it's-
notice from the senior center saying if you have any programs
Oh, okay.
that you want to do, we have the seniors there, see if they want to,
Well,
be
no, I'm
interested
just
in
thinking
it.
that the one thing a lot of our seniors have is time.
Mhm.
And, a lot of them are living on fixed income, and how they survive on $1,500-1,600 a month, I don't know.
Me either.
Yeah.
Shame on our country for rewarding the people who built Milford with $1,600
I know,
a month.
really.
But when they come, and every year we pass, I don't know if it's called a reduction, an abatement, whatever you want to call it, but for certain people, they donate their time, their skills,
Mhm.
and we lower their property taxes.
Right,
I think that's a great program.
sure it is.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
But could we go and nudge, tax collector or whoever?
I don't know. We've tried every year.
Yeah.
We went down and we've sent them requests that we can use a couple of volunteers to monitor our recycling, and nobody volunteers.
So out of our 6 viewers, if you know somebody who could help out and actually get a benefit for themselves by getting a lower tax rate, please tell them to call the Board of Health.
Mm-hmm.
That just feels like the right thing to do. Now, we're also talking about the transfer station.
Right.
Been an incredible success in my
Sure.
mind.
Yep, started
Yep.
in 1984, and at the time, it started small, because like I said, we went into curbside pickup back in the 70s, and we always had the old dump, or
Yeah,
the old transfer.
Plains Park, and I get yelled at for calling it the dump.
Right, the old Plains Park or the landfill.
Goose Park now.
Back then.
Goose Park.
So when the state closed that landfill, it wasn't capped yet, so we still had containers there. And it was for people to bring in. At the time, we had prior to recycling, a resident could put out 8 bags or barrels, not to exceed 50 pounds and 32 gallons in volume. And if they had any extras, they could take it there. So once the state closed that back in the mid-'80s, they didn't want anybody on there at all. the Board of Health decided that there was land right next to the Gulf gas station at the time that the town owned, and we went to town meeting and asked them if we could make it into like a transfer facility. It's not a transfer station. So we got the approval from the town, then we went to the state and got approval for that. And it started off small, and it just grew legs and ran. It just grew bigger and bigger and
Now,
bigger.
the transfer station, or whatever you're gonna call facility, I can go down as a Milford resident.
Yes, you can.
Can other towns participate?
We tried that.
We tried that.
We
It
tried
didn't go
with
over
out
well.
of towners, and first of all, the participation for out of towners was very small, and it just in time we realized that over the period of time that it just wasn't working well.
Man, I hate to
Because
say it, but
I was one of the ones that pushed for that, for the out-of-towners. My thinking was these people that come and dump on Asylum Street or Bear Hill were mostly, I thought, out-of-towners. So if we opened up the transfer
Keep them
facility, maybe they would use it, but it didn't really
So it's really
work.
Milford. Cost me what, $20 or
25 now.
$25? I
Right.
get a little sticker.
Yeah.
I can buy my sticker there, or do I have to go to town hall?
No.
At the facility.
So I can write a check,
Yeah. You buy it at the
no
facility.
credit cards.
No.
No.
And what that entitles you to do is you can bring down all your yard waste for that $25 sticker, paints, and motor oil, all included in that sticker. Anything else that we have down there, like a TV and whatnot.
But I can still bring my TV down. I just
can
have to
bring- you
pay
can-
the
right.
disposal fee, right?
Right.
Correct.
But the sticker just covers, those items.
So if I have paint, I can go down as many times as I want, get rid of my paint.
Right.
Get rid of the oil so
oil.
people aren't dumping it in their
Into the storm
backyard.
drain, right.
Or the storm drain.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
Brush and...
brush, grass, and leaves. And like I said, if you say you have a TV, you have an old computer, refrigerator, there is a fee, but just the fee that it costs us.
Yeah, it's
we're
just
not into
the disposal fee itself you have to
Right.
pay.
Right.
And speaking of the transfer facility, we're working with Scott Christofoli, the highway surveyor, and he's going to open up Asylum Street. He's putting in a new road, and if everything goes as planned, the grass and leaves and brush will go up there to
Now, he's
Asylum
been
Street.
talking forever because you have to pay a lot of money. And we bought him the new toy, that 18-wheel
Yeah,
monster.
It is a monster. Yeah.
Oh, that thing is huge.
Yeah.
But I mean, what we saved in salt and all,
Sure.
not paying for delivery
Mm-hmm.
was a great idea.
Sure.
But then you turned around and said you're paying somebody to haul it away.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea would be to just have all the leaves and brush and everything dumped up there.
Because he
Yeah.
also takes
The leaves, and sorry.
No, I was going to say that
He has the equipment that he can turn this
Well,
over.
he made it into
A mulch.
Compost.
It
Compost,
composts,
right,
yeah.
right.
So whereas we don't have that type of equipment, so we have to pay to get rid of it. Where he, like I say, turns it over, turns it into compost, and now it's saleable.
And not only that, but that's where all the leaves go that he picks up at curbside
Right.
with the vacuums. So they go there anyway to Asylum Street. So we might as well put all
And
the
I
yard waste
wonder, I
there.
mean, it can't be that much extra.
Hmm.
When you think of, the leaf suckers,
Mm-hmm.
what they pick up across town's got to be huge compared to what people bring over in their little dumpy trucks.
Right.
Well, but it does amount. It mounts up.
Well, you had a
especially
pretty
with
good
the-
mountain behind you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we did.
Right. So hopefully everything works the way we planned it, and with Scott's help and cooperation, we'll turn all that part over
But now,
to him.
does that mean
and-
we'll have two? If I want leaves and yard waste, I go to Asylum Street.
right.
Everything else stays down on, it's not Dilla Street. Or,
Cedar.
Cedar Street.
Mhm.
So
Yes,
Cedar
the-
Street becomes everything but yard waste.
Right.
Right, and brush, yeah.
Brush.
Right.
Because Scotty had told us years ago that with his heavy equipment, he can turn over the piles, and the oxidation
Right, exactly.
occurs like 3-4 times faster.
Right, exactly.
Right.
than just letting it rot and insulate itself.
He can
Yeah.
shrink that pile down to probably 7 or 8 times its size within a few weeks.
Yeah. And we
amazing.
also have had a problem in the past where the leaf pile and grass pile would ignite.
Yeah, because
Because of the
combustion.
Spontaneous combustion. And we had the fire department come down a few times and put out the fire.
Well, anybody who's done, piles of mulch, when you stick your pitchfork in there,
Mhm.
sometimes you can feel that heat
You're right.
coming right out at you.
Right.
The bacteria in there don't stop.
No, they don't.
They
just
keep
go-
chomping
going.
away.
Right?
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So now, the future of the transfer station. Safe?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Would the Board of Health put out some feelers to see what it would do if we could privatize it? And then Scott came into our last meeting and says that if we're ever thinking of handing it over to somebody, he'd be interested in doing it and move everything up to Asylum Street.
So just have the transfer station one location?
Mm-hmm.
Because, when you think of privatizing it, I don't know what benefit that would be.
Yeah. Again, the more we look into it, Al, the more we're saying, well, it's probably a better idea if we don't take care of it ourselves, if we don't have the time for it, to give it over to Scott.
But that stays in the family.
It's not only stays in the
Yeah.
family, but you take someone privatizing it, the prices we charge are minimum. $25 for it. We haven't raised that price. We raised it $5 last year for the first time in 36 years. $5 in 36 years. So not only that, but someone that's privatized may raise that to $125.
Yeah.
They may say instead of a TV being $15 to $20, it's $55. So
And then all of a sudden, you start finding them on Bear Hill or
right.
Yeah.
Asylum
And the,
Street again.
the difference is we charge what we have to charge because we have to
But
pay.
we charge a pass-through rate.
Whereas
Mhm.
if it was privatized, who knows what they're going to
Well,
charge?
I mean,
They're
let's
going to
face
make
it.
money.
They got to make money.
Right.
They're going to have their owners, their stockholders.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, their job is to make money
Exactly.
for their
Yeah.
investors.
Right.
Exactly.
You can't hold it against them that they're
Right.
doing their job.
And ours is just to satisfy the residents, make it convenient to them.
But again, Milford is different that we don't have. I mean, the average employee is going to cost $120,000 by the time you figure out a salary, benefits, insurance,
Mhm.
facility,
Yeah, vacation.
Yep.
Same time.
everything in there.
Right.
So we save, when you talk about these other towns having Department of Trash Removal or Trash Management or Solid Waste, come up with fancy words, still $100,000+ a
Mhm.
person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, don't hold it against me, but especially when we go to the FinCom, I would support having people go around and identify people who don't follow the rules.
Mhm.
And no, I wouldn't take them to court. I'd add it to their tax bill. Because the one thing I can't get away from,
Right. Exactly.
you think of the one office in town hall,
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you to go,
Mm-hmm.
when I look at the tax collector, that never goes away.
No.
No.
One day I'm going to want to sell my house maybe
Exactly.
or do something, and
Mhm.
that
That's a
bill
lien.
would just be sitting
Right.
there. There's a lien on your house
Mhm.
saying, remember back 10 years ago you didn't pay those bills?
Right. There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey Terry, just write them in.
Right a minute.
Yeah.
True.
Because again, to me it's just a responsibility.
It is.
Now, we're one of the very few towns, when you say in the tax base,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I remember I couldn't believe when my daughter brought home cans.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what's going on? Dad, it's $3 for this little designer yellow bag in Worcester.
And that was back then.
That was way, and I said,
Right.
yeah, but you can't bring them to Milford.
Mm-hmm.
You can't bring them home.
Well, I
You know,
think
but
you'd
you
be
could
surprised
see-
at how many people do that.
Well, it's just, you sat there and said, wait a minute. Okay, first year of college, she didn't know better.
Yeah.
But it did show that if you make it onerous, at $3 a
A
bag,
bag.
Mm.
Yeah, it's higher now. Like I said, you take the town of Medway, right next door to us. They not only pay a bag fee, they also pay a user fee.
okay, isn't that called taxes? What's a
Yeah.
user fee?
A user fee is a charge to be participating in the
And-
rubbish program, the curbside rubbish
Yeah,
But
program.
it's run by the town.
Right.
Yeah, you pay to
I'm
get
sorry,
in.
Paulie, I feel
Yeah.
that hand going in my pocket.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can call it a
Yeah.
fee, you can
Right.
call it a schmee,
Right.
See, some
You
towns even
pay to
have
get
one or
in
the
and
other.
then you pay for the bags.
but
Yeah.
if you as a town official are putting your hand in my pocket
Mhm.
and taking money, you know, it's like towns that charge you to put your son or daughter on a bus
Mhm.
to go to school.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, to me that's a tax increase.
right.
Sure it is.
You're
Yeah.
taking money out of my pocket
Mhm.
Yeah,
to go to the town,
Right.
that's a tax
Sure it
increase.
is.
right.
You know, and that's why we were so dead against a user's fee or a bag fee. Like I said, some towns have both, some towns have one or the other. In all reality, I don't know if most of the viewers understand this, but a municipality does not have to pick up your rubbish.
No,
There's no law saying a town has to do it. Hence, you just mentioned Millville.
Right.
It's a subscription. Now, they give you a list of 5 or 3, whatever.
well, a lot
you
of
know.
towns will say, here's 5 vendors that can pick up your
Right.
trash, go sign a
Go-
contract.
Right.
Right.
Them, I can say, not only Millville now, there's Uxbridge, there's Northbridge, that actually, they never had
Well,
town
that's
pickup.
gotta be more expensive, because
Mhm.
I like ABC.
Right,
You're my neighbor, you like CDE.
Mhm.
You like FLG.
right,
Well, now you got 3 trucks
Mhm.
coming to our little street.
Yeah,
It's gotta be more expensive than
absolutely.
Wheelabrator doing,
exactly.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they do what, 10,000 stops in
Yeah,
Milford?
it's,
Exactly,
it's
right, right.
Republic Services.
Republic.
Services. Yeah. I
10,000?
mean, you take all the new construction that you see up on the Bear Hill area, the condos, don't forget, we pick up condos now.
Now, are they behaving?
Yeah.
Okay.
The condos are fine. You know, like I said, they're in nice areas of town, and, you know, they're they're expensive.
Whether
to
it's
pay.
nice or not,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I know there, when we first talked about condos, everybody's saying there'll be like 500 Decker houses, they'll never comply.
Well, they also have Big Brother watching. They have their condo association.
Oh.
You know what I mean? And their board of directors. You don't recycle. You got to answer to them, not only the town of Milford.
Yeah, because they don't want to lose that privilege, because that
Right.
would
Right.
hurt.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. Now, we hear all the time about the inspections we do on restaurants and all.
Mhm.
And I seem to remember that that was getting heated. How are we doing in general on inspections?
We're doing well. We're doing well. The state code asks for a minimum of 2 times. Each establishment gets inspected at least 2 times per year. We're doing 4, sometimes 5.
But those are the good ones.
No,
Throughout the
all
town.
of them.
No, but I'm
all
just
of them.
saying, Paul,
Mhm.
if you come to me 3-4 times a year,
Oh, right.
That's-
right.
if
that's
I'm a-
right. But if you have
I'm a
violations,
wonderful-
You may, if you're in violation, you may get inspected 6 to 8 times.
okay,
a
that's what
year.
I'm saying. So
you
the
gotta
good
go back
ones
and
still.
re-inspect to make sure you complied with the first inspection.
Right.
You know, so that it's doing well. And what we do in Milford is, you know, years ago, you had your general inspection, your visual inspection. I call it the environmental inspection, making sure your floors are clean, your lights are clean, and the ceiling, and the forks and knives and whatnot. Now we go on a risk-based inspection. We try to get into the 21st century. What is actually causing a foodborne illness? You know, it's the bacteria, the microorganisms growing, the time, the temperature. You know, how long
So
is
are
food
you
left
cooking
out?
my burger to 160 degrees?
Exactly. The temperature's important. So you're talking inspection of temperatures, storage of food, also the wellness of the employees. Look at what happened to Chipotle in Boston a couple of years ago. And then again, the restaurant industry is a tough business, Al, because there's no sick days, or most of them don't give you any sick days off or time off and whatnot. You come into work, you need
If
the
you
money.
stay home,
If
you
don't
ain't getting paid.
You don't get paid. So the Chipotle employee had a stomach ache. Asked the manager, "I got to go home." "No, you're not. I can't find a replacement for you. You're staying." Son of a gun, you know, he had
Here
the
comes
norovirus.
neurovirus.
Right. You know, and that's what happened. So again, we like to educate. That's probably the best form, education and awareness, to let the management or the person in charge know.
Now, Paul, how do you deal with people like my darling bride?
Mhm.
She wants her steak, and she'd be happy if you cut the tail and the horns
Right.
off
Okay.
and threw it on her plate.
Mhm.
I mean, you know, she wants it rare, and
Mhm.
I mean, I can't stand it, but
Yeah.
That's got to be more dangerous.
Yeah, you know, we have a saying, when you eat meat rare, beware. You know, but anyway, one of the things that we do with the code, the food code, and we go by the federal food code. And what the federal food code says now, when you order food, you know, beef, various meats, rare, there's a warning on the bottom of the menu, if you ever read it, that it could cause a foodborne illness or cause
But
some
isn't
sort
there
of
still a minimum? I mean, I kid about cut the head and the tail off
Well,
and
yeah,
put it
you're
on my
talking-
plate.
You know, you're talking with a beef, 140, 145.
So I have to cook it at least for a short period of time to
15
100
seconds, yeah.
So 15, 20 seconds, at least it's going to kill most.
Yeah, exactly, right.
I mean, if I go to medium, I'm a lot safer.
You're a lot safer,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I can see the restaurant owner wanting to satisfy their customer
Yeah.
and not overcooking it,
Right.
but on the other hand, kind of scary
Well,
if.
well, that's
It
why,
is.
you know, the way you handle the food, the time and temperature is very important. You know, I mean, if you leave it out for a certain period of time, and even though the person serving it or the person preparing it is in good health, you know, you're causing a bacteria bed, you know, if you leave it, if a certain.
I mean, you
product
think
out
about
for-
you put a nice piece of meat
Mhm.
in a hot kitchen
Right,
at 90-degree day.
right, exactly, forget it.
It's a great incubator.
Yeah, absolutely, right,
You're just going to enhance the growth of so many microorganisms.
exactly.
Hmm.
So, but that's what we like to do. And we also have a newsletter that we send out just to let the the establishments know that we're around all the time. We're there to educate and help. We're not there to enforce. Enforcement's the last resort. You know, we want compliance. We're not into that gotcha mentality. We never been like that in Milford. Whether it's restaurants, whether it's a nuisance violation, or whether it's a landlord-tenant dispute. We want compliance. So what we do is we send out the newsletter, like say one issue would be, based on our inspections of the previous months, this is the most common violations that we found throughout the town. It's more personal, it's geared, you know, from Milford.
But see, it's funny.
Very
'cause
informative.
when I was running the pharmaceutical plant, we always looked at the FDA training records to find out who in the Northeast region, what they were training on. Because sure enough, when they're training on water quality, you know for the next 3 or 4 months, it was enhanced inspection of your water system.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, you're telling me, as a restaurant owner,
right.
hey, by the way, we're more sensitive towards these things because we found them.
These are the things we found, be aware.
And
Right,
if I have any intelligence, I'm going to sit there and say, well, if you're more sensitive to it, the next time the inspector comes, I got to know you're looking for it.
right.
Right.
And I mean, hats off to you for doing it because it doesn't show that you want to play gotcha.
Right.
You're saying,
Exactly.
look, we're running into this issue.
We're all in this together.
Deal with it.
Right. And we send them out that, and we send them out various like changes in the law, let's say, so they'll all be aware of it. And we're getting some good response. We get, every time we send it out, we get a good batch of emails back saying, you know, thanks, it was very informative, you know. And to let them know that we're still there. Even though we haven't hit you in like 2 or 3 months, we're still around. You know, so that's working out well. What else was I going to say?
What's the
about-
compliance rate look like? You know, how many restaurants and sites do you have to inspect for food service in Milford?
About 148.
Okay, so out of 148 in the last 12 months, how many passed?
I would say a good 98%.
Okay.
And those that didn't pass, we just held up a little bit. Don't open until you get these things done.
So now you got 3 establishments,
Yeah.
maybe 4 in all of Milford. Serious violations or just, hey guys,
Well,
you know better?
Yeah, I'd say you should know better.
Yeah.
You
If,
know.
if they're serious, we close
You know,
it.
they're actually closed until they're,
Okay.
you know. But,
And you haven't closed any in a long time.
Right.
I'd say the last one was probably last fall because of a hot water situation. It was a franchise establishment, and their hot water booster broke down, and the hot water wasn't there, and it not only
So
was
it's not 130 degrees or whatever?
It was not only that in the dishwasher, but also in the bathrooms too. No one could wash their hands with hot water. So I got a call at like 9:30 on a Friday night, and I went down there and I told the guy, you know, there's a line out there waiting to get in, send them home, and finish up.
Call the
whatever you
plumber,
have
get a
here.
new booster in
Exactly,
tomorrow.
Exactly, the plumber was in, worked all night, I went there the next day, morning, it was Saturday, maybe early afternoon, late morning, and it was all fixed. You know?
I can see somebody saying, if they don't wash their hands well, they're only affecting themselves. But
Mhm.
the employees
Right.
or the dishwasher,
Right.
everybody that comes in,
Mhm.
Yes.
I want to, it's like I cannot eat beer nuts anymore.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I
at
know
a
what
bar.
you're saying. I know what you mean.
Because I saw the study that said
the study with the urine.
90% of the beer nuts on a bar that they
Right.
studied were contaminated with either E. coli
Yeah,
or.
yeah.
So you sit there and say, okay, somebody's not washing their hands,
Exactly.
and they're sticking
Yeah.
after they go
Yeah.
and perform this biological activity. They're sticking their hands, and I'm eating their E. coli. Oh no,
Yeah,
I think
right,
I'll pass.
right, Yeah.
So we joke about it, but it's serious if
Yeah.
people can't, perform cleanliness
Exactly.
and cleanliness functions.
Like I said, the way the state law is, and also the federal law is, you should have at least one individual at all shifts that's certified in ServSafe. So they more or less are our eyes and ears when we're not there. And one of parts of the inspection too is when you go in, the inspector should make sure the person is there. And if not, they call it a pick or a person in charge that would take the place of the other one, but should have as much knowledge in foodborne illness as the person who
But Paul,
went to the
if
bank.
the worst thing that happened is within 12 months, you had to shut somebody down for a day because their water
Yeah,
heater.
hot water. It wasn't anything
That's
really.
not-
No, it wasn't bad. It
it's
was
not
a mechanical-
salmonella
it was a
over and over.
Right, it was
Right.
mechanical failures. You remember, the restaurant's closed now when we had that scare with peppercorns.
Multiple.
Right, with the
I
salmonella.
I mean, when you guys kept saying you're trying everything, we can't identify it.
Mm-hmm.
You almost feel bad for the owner saying,
Yeah.
"Tell me
and
what
he
to
was
do."
Extremely cooperative.
Well, he's watching his
very
business go down the
cooperative,
toilet.
Exactly, and come to find out, in a case like that, it was an employee who was still shedding and was making salads. And that's what happened. It wasn't recooked or reheated, to get that control method into there. So again, they were eating, with salads, and here we are testing the chickens and the meats and all
Yeah,
this
you're
other
checking
stuff.
everything, but
But
the guy who
right.
at the very end stage
Yeah.
processing of the food contaminates
Right.
it.
Right. So like I said, it's something. It's a science. It is something. That we look to the state for our lab tests and all that, and guidance, and sometimes, and like I said, we took stool cultures of practically every employee there. We didn't take them ourselves.
Hey Lenny, you're the junior
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, Lenny.
Here's a cup.
And that's how we found out. I mean, the person was still shedding.
Wow.
And that's a salmonella. That's what the people who were ill.
But you can
had.
imagine the poor owner saying,
Mhm.
"But Paul, I'm doing everything you tell me."
Exactly. His temperatures were fine. The place was impeccable.
Yeah,
You
it's
know.
absolutely clean.
Right.
And it makes no sense. And there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
So we also always talk about the fact that you have amnesty days where I can bring down all stuff.
Oh, the
Whatever you,
What's that, Kenny?
once a year.
once a year, the turpentine and
Yeah.
all that.
Oh, the hazardous waste day.
Hazardous
I always
waste.
call
I
it
could-
amnesty.
I
'Cause I got this
couldn't
bad
think
stuff
of it either.
in my
Hazardous waste.
garage.
Yeah.
It's the
And
hazardous
I
waste
don't
day.
want anybody to just,
Mm-hmm. Right, we've been having them for years, Al, and we have it at the highway department. It's usually the first Saturday in November, and it's very successful. Go between 9,000 and 12,000 pounds in those 4 hours we're open.
6 tons of hazmat.
Yes,
Hazardous
yep.
waste that comes in from the residents, again, Milford residents only, and also is free. Again,
Yeah,
not
it's
to pat
paid
Milford
for-
on the back, but we're only the only towns around that I know of that don't charge their residents for that.
Yeah, it's paid for out of the funds for the transfer station.
facility.
But again, I mean, it's nice to say we do it out of the goodness of our hearts, But if we didn't do it, aren't we really mitigating the risk that somebody's gonna take the gallon of turpentine and just
That's
dip
why,
it?
that's why we try our best
absolutely.
to, you know, to
Either
to make it
either
as
the
convenient.
sewer, it'll get it into the sewer, or they'll just dig a hole in the ground and it'll get into the
But
groundwater.
one way or another, it's gonna bleed down to the aquifer.
Exactly.
Because it's very expensive
exactly,
to get rid of
yeah.
hazardous waste. You take, on those 4 hours we have it, we get, you know, our bill from our company is between $12,000 and $16,000.
Wow. But, you know, I remember one time I had a generator up at the plant and the fuel line broke.
Right.
Yeah, 20 gallons. $40,000 later. And there was no malice. They
Right,
understood.
Right.
You know, it somehow started spraying and it went over the berm, you know, the
Oh, wow.
containment berm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So to make sure, there was so little that did, but to make sure none of it really did, cost me 38, almost 40 grand to prove
Right, you had to dig beyond.
Totally.
because of a
Yeah.
goddamn
Yeah.
splash.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, we tested the containment berm or whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It holds much more than the 40 gallons
Right.
of fuel the generator.
Yeah.
But when the inspector said there's a splash,
Mm-hmm.
the minute he said that, I said, okay, test the whole area.
Right, right.
So, you know, I can see that no resident is going to rat themselves out knowing it could cost them 20
Of
or
course,
30 grand.
Of course, that's why we try to make it as convenient as we possibly could. I know most towns charge $40 to $50 a car when they go, but that's still cheap. They're still not a bad price for what it costs to get rid of your hazardous waste. One of the other things we're having too, Al, which is pretty unique for the town of Milford and for a Board of Health. This would be our 3rd year. We're having a shred day. So all your important documents, your private documents and whatnot, you take down to the transfer station on, I think it's the 15th. At the 15th, viewers, is on a Saturday of September from 10 to 1 is when we're having this
And I can
shred
just
day.
bring down my paper and you'll crunch it up.
You crunch it up, you can actually see it. It's actually a video
Like
camera.
your old taxes,
All your old
tax
taxes, all
documents.
your old private papers or important papers that, you know, you don't want anybody to
God,
see.
that'd be a lot easier than.
Right.
I got my little shredder.
You can
Yeah.
bring down barrels of it, and you know, you actually see it. You actually see it, so you'll know it's being shred. It, you know, dumped into the hopper, and it goes up the conveyor belt, gets shredded, and put it into another.
Now, where do I find out about the hazmat, the amnesty day, the shredder
At the
day?
Board of Health, we also advertise.
We advertise both in a newspaper, on the radio, and
Website.
the website.
So I can go on the Town of Milford website, look up the Board of Health,
Yeah.
and you have all the special
Not
days.
right now. We're still, you know, we will pretty soon have the hazardous waste day there. We have the shred day, I believe.
Yeah,
there,
because
but-
the dates change year
Well,
to
no,
year.
no, but what I'm saying is, okay, if I go on there and I don't see the shred day,
Yeah, just call
it
us
just
up.
means I can call you,
Oh, you
or it
just
just
call
means
us
it's
Absolutely.
not within 2 or 3 months yet.
Right. Well, it is.
Well, no, but I'm
Two
just saying,
Yeah.
as you get closer,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
you would by August you'll put up
We're gonna
September's.
be putting
Yes.
in like soon with the boat days. You know, so
Yeah.
yeah, we'll have that. One of the other things I wanted to mention too, Al, I don't know how much time we have.
We got time.
But speaking of various programs that we have for the convenience of the residents, is the Board of Health is going to be starting negotiations at our next meeting pretty soon with a company. What's it called? Simply Recycling or something like that.
Yeah.
It's an organization or it's a company that goes and they recycle textiles.
Yeah.
Not only textiles, but a lot of home goods like.
I think they include shoes.
They can include shoes. They include your regular
clothing, your regular
clothes,
clothing.
jewelry, tools.
So the clothes would be things that you're not going to give to Goodwill.
Yeah, or
Right.
if you give them to Goodwill, you can do this. They're not going to be thrown away. They're going to be
Oh,
recycled.
okay. They're not going to be shredded
No, they're going to be recycled. And again, it's hopefully we want to arrange it so if your pickup is on a certain day for rubbish or recycling, you can also put out. They're going to be pink bags, I think.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
so you put out the pink
Yeah.
bag that will supply. You know, I think they'll even deliver them to your home. The fella's coming in at our meeting,
Yeah.
and he's going to be explaining
Yeah,
all
well-
this to us. And again, it's going to be as convenient as it possibly could, where you do not have to go to make the drive and go to the bins. You know, you just put it out front like you would your recycling or your rubbish. they'll come and take it away.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we still have 2 enormous bins at the transfer station where you can now recycle fabrics.
no, just
But
with those 2 bins.
you have to bring them down there.
Just with those 2 bins, just from January till now, we did close to 4,000 pounds.
Of clothes.
With just that 1 bin.
For the needy.
Yeah.
So could you
How cool.
imagine, so could you imagine townwide, the amount of tonnage? Don't forget, every ton we save,
It's
recycling is less tons we
$68.
gotta pay at the incinerator
And
at
as I say,
$68
it's
a ton.
68 bucks that you've
Right.
saved.
Yep.
But, you know, more importantly to me, a lot of the clothes, you know, I'm tickled pink that a lot of people in Milford are doing well, and they just don't want to wear these clothes anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean there's not other families in Milford
Right.
that could certainly use them. And, you know, I mean, I used to laugh when my mother, God, if I tried throwing away a shirt,
Oh, yeah,
you know, because the elbows blow out.
yeah. Put a patch.
Well, put a patch, and I told her I
Or slash short
would make
sleeve
it
shirts.
short sleeve shirts and
Yeah.
take them over to Portugal with her every year because she said these are good shirts.
Yeah.
You know, so you know something like that sticks with you, saying, you know, what a great idea that certain families there needed some help,
Yeah.
and my mother would take all the shirts she could get her hands on and bring them over there and hand them out. So it's the
Yeah.
same idea here.
That's
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. And if the shirt really got really bad, you at least cut the buttons off and save the buttons.
I never did that.
My mother did.
No, that was
Yeah.
always the fun part because for 30 years when my mother lived with us, there was a annual dance where my darling bride would throw things out. My mother never argued. She'd wait till Sharon goes to work, bring them back. And then when my mother went to Portugal for 6 weeks,
Yeah.
Sharon would go through the house
Take it
and
all
you'd
away.
hear screams
Yeah.
because she'd find, you know, my mother was like a little squirrel with her cache of nuts. So Sharon would find stuff that she threw away.
Yeah.
And then they would actually get thrown away. My mother comes back from Portugal, you'd hear more screams as she went to her little hideouts and all the hideouts were empty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Sharon would say, your son did it. And she'd look at me with those eyes like, you rat me out, you died. Now, do we still do the vaccination clinics during the year?
Yep, we have four flu clinics and 2 pneumonia clinics. And if there's any other clinics that, you know, if we feel as though that, let's say it's a bad season that we had a few years ago and we need more, we would have them. Especially too, we try to accommodate police and also teachers by having it at the high school as well.
But now, a flu clinic. Why would I go to the flu clinic versus going to the local pharmacy?
I think the pharmacy, I didn't go to the pharmacy, but I think it's like they charge you, like, or your insurance.
Well, your insurance, because I go in
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
and they want to harpoon me.
Right.
And when they harpooned me, I said, fine. And
Yeah.
they said, your insurance pays for it.
I think you can go to both.
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't matter, but maybe for convenience sake, if you don't want to go to the pharmacy or.
Or
if
your
you-
insurance
or
doesn't
if you
cover
don't
it.
have insurance that don't cover it, you can come to our public clinic and it's
And
free.
we don't charge.
We don't charge, no.
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 So if my insurance, it's worth me making a phone call to find out if my insurance
Right,
covers it.
covers it.
Right.
If they don't,
If not, come to our clinic. We have them available at the senior center, at the Milford Housing Authority, and at the high school. We try to cover, you know, various areas of town for everybody. And like I say, we also have a nurse that the Board of Health funds from the VNA at the senior center. And they're there 2 times a
Yeah,
week.
twice a week.
They're there twice a week. And again, you know, we want to know, make sure that the seniors are taken care of because they're at that age now. You have your mom, where they're on medication or they could have various conditions that they don't want to tell their kids about right now, and they get dizzy, let's say. Now they're at the senior center. They have a nurse, a private nurse that they could actually see,
Yeah.
help them with their medications, or they're making sure that they see their physician and any questions they have, blood pressure.
Yeah,
I'm
she'll
dizzy,
even
you know,
do the blood
She
pressure.
does the blood
well,
pressure
you
for
know,
them.
and a lot of it, it's hard to understand. But if you had your choice of going to your GP or eating dinner tonight, you know, I mean, again, people living on $1,300, $1,400,
Right.
$1,500 a month, $25 copay that may seem minimal to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's tomorrow's food.
Right, right.
So giving them the option of seeing a medical professional,
Right.
I think is wonderful.
Sure it is, yeah. And like I
Yeah.
said, it's a program that Susan Clark said it's unbelievable, the participation. There's like lines.
Oh, is that right?
Waiting to see the
Very
nurse, yeah.
popular program.
Very popular.
Yeah.
You know,
And we did that with the funding that we used to pay the nurse at the school. At the school, when they closed the school, we implemented this.
close the school.
The
Sacred Heart,
Sacred
Oh,
Heart.
I was
Sacred
gonna
Heart.
say.
Yeah, we used to have it
We
at
used to have
Sacred
a
Heart
nurse at that
because
station
we
there.
didn't have any office space for her, so that's why Sacred Heart had the room. We said, well, we'll put her there, and,
It was a-
cool.
it was a
once they
public health
closed
nurse.
that, then she was a public health nurse, and once they closed that, we said, well, let's use the funds, and we'll put a nurse at the senior
At
center.
the school.
Sue Trotter.
I mean, at the
Yeah,
senior center.
right, yeah, and that's worked out very
Yeah,
well.
it worked out very well.
Okay.
Well, anything we can do, I mean, let's face it, it's our mothers, our fathers, our
sure.
grandmothers.
Mhm.
You know, anything you can do.
And we're on deck.
Right, I was gonna say, pretty soon it's gonna be us. You know, say, Miss Sue, let me in the door, because I qualified. Anything else new and exciting as we wrap up?
Yes, I think one other point, we did get a rebate from Wheelabrator. They burn our trash, incinerate it, and we got a rebate from them this year, which we're using to fund this leadership program at the high school, the Milford High School.
Now, is that the opioid?
Yes, it's for substance abuse. They have a program where they send them out.
Yeah, they
to,
send them to various classes and seminars. and
various
things like that.
classes and seminars, and these students hopefully come back and pass along this information to their fellow students. And it's education. You know, how much can you do? The best thing you can do is
Anything we
educate
can do
them.
to help one Milford kid.
Right.
All you gotta do, because it's gonna, you know, the old days when you think about it, it used to be, you know, the scuzzy guy in a back
Oh, yeah.
alley in Boston.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, it's our neighbors' kids,
Yes.
it's
Right.
the high school athletes. So
Speaking of which, I just the other night running through the channels, what was on but The Man with the Golden Arm, Frank Sinatra. And at that time, I mean, I remember seeing that movie when I was younger, and didn't even know what is this, you know. And you never dope. You know, you thought they were talking about somebody that was a dope or something.
Right.
You know.
well,
But
as we come to an end, another department we can feel really proud. The Milford Board of Health has led the Commonwealth in a lot of initiatives, and they just keep getting better. So hats off. If you have any questions, down the town hall, pick up the phone and call, because there's always somebody to answer. So thank you.
thank you.
And as always, to our 6 loyal viewers, recycle. And may tomorrow be a better night than tonight. God bless, and thank you for joining us.
Not too long since I've been home. Been running all my life just